Hey, it's Mazzy here. Good morning. You're going to be dead before your records wear out. That's kind of an ominous phrase or headline for a video, but it's most likely true. And this video is going to talk about mortalism. Is mortalism a word? Mortality, I should say. Because I was going through a series of my records and something came up and reminded me again. Now, those of you who watched me over the last few years have seen this before on some of my records. I have a series of records all from around 1970, 71, and 72. And my memory is that these records were from after the summer of 70 through 72 or so. After I came back from Israel with my confirmation class, I'd fallen in love with my girlfriend at the time, Judy, who I met on that trip. And there was a group of us who would play records and go to each other's houses. And for whatever reason in those days, I did this. I have a series of records I pull out occasionally. I've done it in my Whack-A-Moles and my It's the Music Stupid series, where I pull these records out from my collection and I find that I had written my name on it. Now, I can't quite recall why I did this. Obviously, we were going to each other's houses, and in those days, all my friends were buying records, all of them. And so I guess I would bring records. Now, I wouldn't loan records out. I would never, strict policy, never loan a record out. You'll never get it back, and especially to girlfriends. But to friends either, don't do that. They'll just trash it, they'll play it, and they'll say it's theirs. So this is sort of an identifying thing. Now, I know people that used to write their names on every record. I know people that use Dymo labelers to write their records on. But I did this, and so I went through my collection because the last few days I've been playing a lot of records by Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, and I just love those records. That period of time from 1968-69 into the early 70s. And in fact, there is two videos I made over the last several years on this channel about God rock, or The Gospel According to Rock and Roll. I think that's the name of those records. And in those videos, I talk about like My Sweet Lord, George Harrison, Delaney and Bonnie, the white gospel artist, Leon Russell, a little bit of maybe J.J. Cale. There's that soul gospel sound that was happening. Take Me to the Pilot, Elton John. There was that whole time in the late 60s and into 1970 because of Jesus Christ Superstar, because of Godspell. There was a sort of spiritual thing happening in the hippie movement and the music. And I was into it too. I'd gone to Israel. Went to the Wailing Wall, went to the Dead Sea, went to Bethlehem. And it's very emotional. Now, those of you know I am not a religious person anymore. I'm cultural to my religion. But to me, religion has not been, organized religion has not been something that's really helped the world. But I believe in people's spirituality, and if they have their faith and they're faithful in any way, I appreciate that, as long as they don't push it and sell it on others. But that's, I don't know why that's so controversial, but it is, because we know about proselytizing and all that stuff that's happened from various religions over the centuries, literally, and it caused so many problems, in my opinion. Anyway, I digress, but it is part of this story. And so I was thinking about these records. So these records are 55 years old, 53, 54, 55 years old in my collection. And every time I pull out some, when I see that, it harks me back to a time. That time with my friends Judy and Larry and Ben and the other Judy and Joyce. And there's a group of us, boyfriend, girlfriends, some without partners, would hang out. And that was young love. I was 16, 17, 18, just before I turned 18, I guess. Things changed a little bit, got into college. But I was thinking about this because I pulled these records out. In fact, this is the record particularly I pulled out after that Delaney and Bonnie, especially Delaney and Bonnie Live. All those musicians around that time, there was so much overlapping thing. And of course, if you know Joe Cocker's Mad Dog and the Englishman, that was a film and it was a live album. This is it on A&M Records. They financed that big production. There was something like, what, 30, 40, 50 people on the road on that airplane on that tour. Expensive as hell. So A&M got the album soundtrack and, of course, a movie. I haven't seen the movie in decades, but I recall it's a good movie, on-the-road movie. But Leon Russell pulled this band together. This is a amazing band, an amazing, intense, over-the-top. I mean, there are definitely stories, if you read books over the years, or some nefarious things that went on during that tour, as well as the love and the drugs and the rock and roll, of course. But Leon Russell put together this great band. I mean, you have Chris Stainton on piano and organ. You got Leon Russell guitar and piano. His piano playing is luscious, is beautiful on this. Carl Rattle on bass. Jim Gordon, the tragic story of Jim Gordon years later is just horrible. And what happened on this tour, which we found out years later with Rita Coolidge and Jim Gordon, just horrible. I hate to even bring that up during this video because this video is positive to me. This is a sense memory. This is a true memory that's magic in my life. Music never ended, and this was a pivotal part, falling in love and listening to music and buying records. But Jim Gordon, as a live drummer in the 70s, really drove a band. He had a great rhythm thing. Jim Keltner's also on here, but there's and I love Jim Keltner, as good as in a different way as Jim Gordon. But on these live sessions in the 70s, Jim Gordon was the one that really drove the groove, if you will, and incredible drummer, kept that going. You have, again, as I said, Jim Keltner, Chuck Blackwell, percussion and drums, Sandy Konikoff, percussion, Bobby Torres, congas, Jim Price and Bobby Keys, of course, trumpet and saxophone. Of course, you'd have them playing with the Stones, too, around this time. And I think there is a Stones album in this pile, actually, too, and so on. And this is a great rock and soul record, blue-eyed soul record. Most of it is, the lead singing is Joe Cocker. There's that one great version of a Leon Russell song, Superstar, with a lead vocal by Rita Coolidge. That would become famous with the Carpenters, too. But this is a magnificent record. But this is one of the Maslov branded records with my name on it. And when I pull these records randomly, it is such a throwback for me. And I remember playing these records. Now, the point of this video, and I said you'll probably be dead or you will be dead before your records wear out. This record, I did put through the Humming Guru this time because I hadn't. I don't wash all my records with the Humming Guru until I pull them out and I'm about to play them. And I did that. And I always say that these brownish gold A&M labels are the best pressings of A&M records you can get. And I will stand by that. Whenever I see one, whether it is obviously Joe Cocker, whether it is Procol Harum, so many artists, that first debut C-Train record, and so on. These are killer pressings, killer mastered records. I have no idea who mastered them. I could look here, but that's not the point. The point is, this record sounds as good today on my better stereo that I had in 1970 than it did then. I didn't wear this record out. I played this record, I must have played it hundreds of times in 1970 and 71. I remember playing this record all the time. 2-record set, great groove on it, great rhythm, great rock and roll, great soul. It's a wonderful, wonderful live album. And the thing is, 55 years later, this sounds as good as it did in 1970. Now, in 1970, I had a Magnavox all-in-one separate, speakers pulled out, dust cover on the turntable amp, and that was it. And it had a stacker, and sometimes I would stack my records. But remember, if a record's flat, you have this lip, you're not rubbing the grooves, and as people get, yeah, heads explode with those Crosleys and things. If you have a decent stylist, you're okay. So the idea of people buying records and buying records as backup copies is just, to me, silly. Now, I do buy occasionally multiple pressings when it's a variation, maybe the cover, or something is different in the mix or something. That's usually when I buy multiples, except for my Beatles stuff. That's a whole separate thing, which I'm not going to get into now. But I tried to pull these records for you today to present to you. At my memory, I have this visualization, this sense memory that I can see which records I wrote Maslov on. And I don't know if I got them all. There's probably others in here. And my guess is in 1995, when I did my big 2000 record purge out of 6,000 I had in 1995, my guess is, in fact, I know it because years later in the 2000s, somewhere in the 2000s, I was in a San Francisco record store and I found a Maslov branded record. Again, another Joe Cocker record. Of course, this has Dear Landlord, Bird on the Wire. She came in through the bathroom window. These first few Joe Cocker records on A&M are incredible records. And he was one of the great interpreters of other people, especially the Beatles. I mean, he reinvented something, a little help from my friends. And another one I remember is Leon Russell's Shelter People. In my mind, I saw that. Look how I made my A's there. Very precise, I guess, printing. I was never good at script. I could do it, but I print everything, block letters. This is Shelter Records. This is that period, remember, when they had the S before they crossed out the S because DC Comics sued them because of the Superman logo for Superman because of, so it's crossed out, it's changed later on subsequent albums on Shelter. Another great record. Again, a lot of these same artists play on this. You got Carl Rattle, Chuck Blackwell, Claudio Lanier, who also sings on it. The great Kathy McDonald, who is a blue-eyed soul singer as well, and Don Preston and so-and-so, Jesse Davis. That whole group. Such an incestuous, wonderful group. But again, Maslov. Again, I put it through the Humming Guru. Again, it sounds great. I'm going to die before this record wears out. If you take care of your records, and I was one, and I didn't clean these records for 48 years. I only got a record cleaner, maybe 3 years ago, the Humming Guru. But I keep my records pristine as possible, even though I play them a lot. And some always ask, why do you need this big library? You'll never play all those records. Well, the point is, it's the library. It's the library to go check out a record. And then I think, I listened to Delaney and Bonnie. Now I want to listen to Leon Russell. Now I want to listen to Joe Cocker. So I ran down and I had a whole wonderful weekend of reminding myself the music I was playing in 1970, 71, and 72. Now, around this time, and aside from this kind of rock and soul music, gospel rock and soul music, I was listening to a lot of singer-songwriters. This was the time of singer-songwriters. And of course, the main singer-songwriter for me in 1970 and 1971 was James Taylor and Sweet Baby James. I had gotten the Apple record he did that bombed, but Peter Asher, as A&R for Apple, brought him the first artist signed to the Beatles' Apple label. But this record broke everything. And I remember in 1972, driving with my buddy Tom to Canada. We went through Seattle, Portland. Who knew I'd be back in the Pacific Northwest back in 1972? We drove to Victoria, Vancouver, and British Columbia, camping. And we had, I think, maybe a dozen 8-tracks in the car. It was my mother's 1968 Buick Skylark, and this was one of them. This and the first America record, I remember that. So I was into that kind of, easy step also, but I was into Led Zeppelin, okay? But I didn't write my name for whatever reason on Led Zeppelin, because apparently I didn't bring the Led Zeppelin records because everyone already had them. But I was bringing these singer-songwriter albums, And I still love this record today. This is a great record today. And what's great about it, and I have always said this, and you don't have to take my word, everyone tells you, the Greenies, the Greenie Warner Brothers are like those gold A&Ms. They're the best sounding records. I bet you I played this record 500 times, and I'm not exaggerating. Has the insert with the lyrics. I always had the lyrics. It's hard to read the printing on. Even, I mean, can you imagine what the CDs are like? Of course we can. But this one, again, has the Maslov branding. So at some point, I brought this to one of those parties or one of those hangouts at my friend's house that year, either in 70, 71, or 72. But I just love this record, and it holds up today. It's a beautiful recording. Again, Peter Asher produced it. Carole King's on it, Russ Kunkel on it, Randy Meisner. And the next year, he does it again with Mudside Slim and The Blue Horizon, another Maslov branded record. Again, a great sounding record. Again, a Greenie that after 54 years, run through the Humming Guru. Whatever way you clean your records, that's fine. I'm not here in this particular video promoting that record cleaner, but for me, it worked at a great price point. Some people like the degritter for $3,200. Some people do the hand wash, and that's fine. But this record, I played this too this morning, and it sounds incredible. I'm going to be gone before this record wears out. You're not going to wear your records out. And those of you who are CD fans, and I have CDs, you know that if you watch me regularly, I have CDs. Raw records, the pops and clicks. If you take care of your fucking records, they're gonna, 55 years. That's the whole point of this. And I'm kind of rambling. This is a ramble video, of course, now you know, halfway through. This is something that you need to kind of sink in. If you take care of your records, they'll last your lifetime and beyond. You find records, you find used records. Yes, there are records that are trashed all the time. People would take Led Zeppelin records and Grateful Dead records and roll joints on them and cut cocaine on them and leave them out stacked up. I never left my records out of the sleeves. Whenever I took it off the table, very rarely at least, I would put it back in the sleeves and slip it back in, and I would handle it properly. Some people even on YouTube, if my, God forbid, my finger hits the grooves, their heads explode. But proof positive is I have these records for 54, 55 years, and they still sound great, are in great shape, and they're going to outlast me. Tapestry, of course, a huge album, and James Taylor and obviously Carole King. Blanked out there for a moment. Carole King, collaborated. James Taylor covered her songs, and they would be on each other's albums as well. And this obviously was a massive record. Lou Adler produced this, I think. And of course, Carole King from the Jerry Goff and Carole King songwriting team from the 60s, all of a sudden comes out. Now, she had done things before, but this is the big breakout. This was the biggest album of the time. And of course, it's a Maslov branded copy that I probably brought over because I think my girlfriend, Judy, liked a lot of this stuff too. That's why I probably didn't bring the heaviest records to these things. Those weren't those kind of parties. We were probably making out make-out sessions or something or whatever we were doing beyond that. But it's easy to look back and say, the Carole King, James Taylor, that's kind of easy, mellow shit. This stuff was important at the time. This was that time, obviously the Laurel Canyon stuff, the East Coast folk scene that had changed and morphed. The singer-songwriter thing, obviously, from the Beatles on, artists were writing their own things. And this and that first Elton John record, 1970, I realized my copy is not written. So I didn't bring that Elton John because I thought that might be a Maslov branded copy. The Elton John self-titled album. Now, this is one I played a shitload. And this, surprisingly, is in good shape. This one does have some wear. Again, most of my record, because it's black. Also, up until 10 years ago, or when I moved to Seattle, is when I started, a little after that, discogging. And as I was filing records away, I started putting outer sleeves in. I never had my records in outer sleeves. Now I do. I'm still have the last from T to Z. They're not in outer sleeves yet. I still need to do that because I'm still adding things into Discogs. But this, Paul Kantner Blows Against the Empire, Paul Kantner, Jefferson Starship. This isn't, quote, a Jefferson Starship album that they would become. This on Grunt Records, the RCA affiliate, custom label for the airplane, was the first time he used the term Jefferson Starship. This to me is an amazing record. I love this record, and we used to play this record all the time. This was this RCA record. Now, I wonder if this Dynaflex maybe. I keep thinking this might not be my original. That's weird. Now, there were some cases in the early 70s that if I had a record that I would bring it into the record store I worked in and swap out the records to get a newer pressing. And it could have been that. I thought it had a black label. Someone's going to tell me that. But again, the Maslov branded thing, this is a great record. Recorded probably at Wally Hyder, has everyone on it from David Crosby, Paul Kantner, most of the Jefferson Airplane, some of the Grateful Dead, Grace Slick, of course. And this is a wonderful record. This is better than the last two Jefferson Airplane records by far. So Paul Kantner Blows Against the Empire, a Maslov branded edition. I promised you the Stones album. This is my original zipper album of Sticky Fingers, intact. This is the 1971 album, and for whatever reason, I double slammed my name on it. What's that about? It was so small. Maybe it was so big, it like the V went in the darkness there, and so I wrote it again. What am I doing? I have no idea. But again, this is my original copy, obviously with the inner sleeve and with the record, and it's pretty damn clean. And I played this, and what a great record it is, of course. This is when Rolling Stones signed their Rolling Stones record custom label with Atlantic. I'd seen them in 1969 for the first time, and then again, of course, in 72, XL on Main Street. But important record. So obviously, this was a record I brought to some party, some event, and love it. And lastly, again, this video is about these records are in great shape. If you take care of your records, if you're a newbie, just take care of your records. Put them away. Keep them clean if you can, one way or another. And enjoy them. Enjoy the music. That's what it's about. But again, people baby their records too much. And I'm kind of obviously talking out other two sides of my mouth saying, take care of your records, but don't baby them. I think people are a little too pristine now. They have to wrap these, like I hate those fucking Japanese seal sleeves and everything, where they put the, you know what I'm talking about. Just enjoy the music. I mean, records are pretty sturdy for the most part. If you have a little bit of, you take care of them, you have respect for them. But, you know, whenever I do this, sometimes I'm on a video. I used to make videos where all of a sudden I'd be showing 10 videos and you'd hear that. Records are sturdy. And I have a carpet in here, so if I do this, no big deal. People's heads explode. Mind your own business and take care of your records. Now, of course, by me saying that, you'll say, Maslov, you mind your own business. I'm just telling you my opinion. This is an opinion piece. This one's a little different. I'm going to show this just as a final closing sentimental thing. That girlfriend, Judy, I should insert a picture here. I don't know where she is anymore. My first real long-term girlfriend, 3 years, 1970, 73. So my personal journey. Beautiful girl. She was a year older than me. So I met her when I was just on that trip to Israel, just before I turned 16, and she was just about to turn 17. Wow. Older women, Maz. This was a gift she gave me. She gave me this album. And those are the days where I would count my records, and I knew exactly. She gave me a Butcher cover when I was, for my 19th birthday. That was my 500th record, and she wrote on the back of the butcher cover. If you've seen this in this series before, you've seen me show that video. But this one, Buffalo Springfield again, and she wrote on the back here, 12/16/72. So I wonder if this was a Hanukkah gift, or it's just a celebration of 400 records in my collection. Congratulations on your 400th album. All that I would like to do is touch your mind, listen to the music. It's everywhere. Love, Judy. That's so touching, isn't it? Touch your mind. Relax all thoughts, surrender to the void. I'm quoting John Lennon there. Again, this one's not a Maslov branded, but this is written on, and that's why I included. I thought I might have a Buffalo Springfield record with the Maslov thing. So if you come across anywhere in America or in the world a record with Maslov on it, you have something special. You have something that was loved. You have something that was listened to. You had music that was enjoyed, that pretty much helped to make me who I am today. I know that's sort of an overkill, but it's true. All this music added to where I am today, good or bad, whether you like it or not. That's what happened, and it still does today. And I am sincere when I talk about music and records, despite what some people may think. And I really love listening to records, and I love talking about music and records. And I've been doing this now for 7 years or so, and I appreciate all of you who have hung out here to watch this and who've joined up the last few years. So thanks again. Take care of your records, and they will take care of you. Mazzy loves you.